welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today we've got an interview for you. We're going to have a lovely chat today with a gentleman called Darren Evans, who runs a company called AfterCloud. And AfterCloud is a series of applications that help kind of capture memories, help capture stories and experiences. And you guys know that I started this podcast because I wanted to capture both my own story and experience of owning a classic car, but also that of the people that I kind of came across. And when I was able to meet back up with Darren more recently and get to know him a little bit better, it's been fantastic to find someone else who's as passionate about that as I am in terms of the classic car world. He started off in a completely different sector with AfterCloud, and it's still in that sector, and he's going to tell you all about that as well. But the application to cars and stuff like that was kind of a bit of a coincidence, and a transpired out of just people that you know and speak to, again sharing stories and experiences. And I think it's something that a lot of you guys will be interested in using, making use of, having a bit of a play about with. And Darren has really kindly given me a referral link for you guys to go along to get the first stage of it for free, and then kind of anything after that is all tiered up depending on how many versions you want to make use of. But it's a really lovely chat, and I hope that you will get to kind of understand the idea behind it and see how it might be useful to you in your classic car ownership, or perhaps even your car club if you run one of those as well. So without further ado, let's get Darren in the back and have a little chat with him about AfterCloud Concours. So we're now joined by Darren Evans from AfterCloud, and we'll get into a bit more detail about what AfterCloud is, and particularly the concourse aspect, which will be of interest to people listening along to the podcast. But let's start with a bit about yourself. What was your first car?
Wow. Mum and Dad's first car. My earliest memories, I guess, were an Avenger, a brown Avenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're big fans of roots cars on the channel here, so that would be great. Yeah.
HMO 686K. Probably doesn't exist anymore, but if anyone out there wants to search, fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, memories of...
Unfortunately, the Avengers and stuff like that didn't manage to pull through in quite so many numbers as stuff like the Morris Minor. So.
No, I know. They're a rarity, aren't they?
Yeah.
We had an Avenger, then we had an Escort, a yellow Escort.
Yeah.
MOD 208P. It's crazy what you remember, isn't it? But all of those early memories, the car memories and the car journeys and the family outings, that's what I remember most about.
That's it. It's people always talk about, oh, this was my first house that I remember living in and stuff like that. But a lot of people spend a lot of time in their family cars, going to family events or travelling around for Christmas, like I've spoken about on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Or they're going to the seaside, or a lot of memories can be made from kind of the back seat of a car. And
100%. They are the family memories that stand out, I think, those early trips.
Can you remember any particular ones from either the Avenger or the Escort?
Do you know, one thing that stands out is we used to go, so I'm from Cheltenham, and we used to go out to Stonehouse, where my family were originated from, I guess. And there was a humpback bridge getting into this place in Stonehouse. So I always remember the different feelings of the car going over this humpback bridge.
It depending on the speed and stuff as to how much you kind of jumped up as. It was the seatbelts in the back?
Not back then.
No. Yeah,
No.
so you guys had been flying in the back.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was always a sort of memorable moment, really.
Yeah.
Mum used to drive mostly, interestingly, back then. Fantastic memories.
Yeah, and I suppose that aspect of kind of memories and stuff and preserving those is what inspired you to start AfterCloud.
It actually was lived experience. So it was it's not nice to say, but it was a family bereavement that happened through dementia.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very aggressive form of dementia. So 10 months she died. This was my mother-in-law. And we were going through a family photo album, actually, post the funeral. So if I skip forward. And my son, who was 12 and a half, I guess, at the time, Dylan, skipping through this family photo album and asking my wife, Pam, who's this? Who's that?
Yeah.
And to add a level of complexity, my wife is British Indian, so my mother-in-law came from India.
Yeah.
And anyway, they didn't know anybody in this family photo album. So we asked around the family, they didn't know anybody. And with that, my son said, look, Dad, you work in technology. Can't you do something about this?
Yeah.
Mm.
And that really was the birth of AfterCloud. We thought, well, actually, we can, and we can use technology to cherish those memories, bring them back, and make people capture them real time.
Yeah, that's such a relatable thing, because I remember when my gran's passed away, we were going through her stuff and going through her photo albums, and we were so fortunate that her sister-in-law was with us, and so she was telling us stories about the time that 6 of them had piled into a pre-war Hillman Minx and gone for a drive, and they'd crashed the car and she'd ended up with a broken arm. They were in rural Ireland, and that they'd had to go to a vet to get her arm set and stuff. And those sorts of stories, we were really fortunate to be able to get off of her, that we'd never heard from grands and stuff like that. But you do end up in that situation often, and it's, I think, having the technology there pointing out that this could happen means that hopefully less people would be in that situation after a funeral, going through stuff where they might actually know, let's sit down with someone before that happens. I think with a lot of websites and stuff that are out there at the moment, people are thinking about, okay, how do I preserve those thoughts and those stories?
Yeah, 100%. I just want to go back to, she went to a vet.
Yes, because there was nobody, like no hospital or anything anywhere near. They were kind of halfway between Galway and Dublin, I believe. So they were like kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So they just were like, right, nearest place, take her to a vet. And and I'm pretty sure she said something along the lines of, my grand's mother then said to her son, who was dating the lady who broke her arm at the time, well, you'll have to marry her now, you've broken her arm. So so they ended up married and part of the family and everything, but ended up at a vet's because they'd crashed this Hillman Minx, and because they were 6 people up in the car, they'd been mostly crammed in, so the injuries weren't so bad because no seatbelts or anything like that. But she'd had to go to a vet's to get her arm set.
That's incredible. Well, that's a treasured piece of family history right there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's those stories, unless they're captured, for posterity, really, but they're the ones that get lost over generations. Yeah. I think the thing is, right, when someone that you know or someone that you love dies, and it happens to us, everybody, doesn't it? But that whole library of information, that family history is gone in an instant, and there's no retrieval unless you do something about it. It's
and it's that sort of thing that made me start the podcast, because I remember all of these stories and stuff growing up, going to car shows and things of, oh, so-and-so's car did this and it used to do that, or I've mentioned many times on the podcast about Gifford rebuilding the car that won the Olympics in 1936, and all of this stories and stuff that are around it. And gradually, unfortunately, some of those people started passing away, and those stories that I remember growing up and being around the cars were being lost, but also as the cars are being sold, those stories aren't necessarily being passed on to the new owner, whereas something like AfterCloud Concours could fill that gap a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because you go along to these car shows, and they're all over the place now. Even in care homes, they have cars that turn up to do charitable events, which I think is fantastic. But the bigger car shows as well, there's always a Bill or a Bert or an Eric or a Susan or whoever it might be that is the custodian of that heritage, that history. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Unless it's captured, those stories do. But Concours. So with Concours, it enables the people to tell those stories.
Yeah.
The narrative of whatever it might be, intricate to that car's journey.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what we're trying to get across to people, I guess.
Because AfterCloud started originally as that kind of preserving human stories and human memories and stuff. Tell us a little bit about how it kind of transformed into this, having this car alternative, the Concours version.
So it's a bit of a journey, and I'll explain that. So AfterCloud was, as I said, sort of end of life. Then it transformed from end of life into life stories.
Yeah.
And then from there, people started to apply what we call timelines. So timelines, if I explain, we collect moments, and the moments are images, audio, letters and video. And we package them as what's known as a moment. And then the moments are plotted chronologically to create this narrative, the timeline.
Yeah.
What happened was people started to apply them retrospectively. So then it started to be applied to things like statues and buildings and monuments. And one instance in Wallingford in Oxfordshire, there's it's called a monument to imagination. So it's a statue for Dame Agatha Christie. And on the plinth, they wanted to put something that was commemorative to her history.
Yeah.
So they selected AfterCloud to do that. And there's a QR code now on the plinth, authorised by Historic England, which relates to her life story.
Yeah.
It also actually gives people directions to other parts of the town, the town council. Anyway, that happened, so it was retrospective, applied to her life. She had an incredible life. It's amazing. She's the most noted author of all time, with the exception of Shakespeare and the Bible. Yeah. It's incredible. And you pick up these little facts as you go along. Anyway, that happened. Then a lady called Jeanette House, BEM, who works within Tourism South East, saw what we were doing. She connected the dots and she introduced me to John Watson, who was at the time chairman of the MG Car Club over in Abingdon. Yeah. So we were invited over to them. I met with Andy Knott and John, because what they wanted to do over at Kimber House, which obviously celebrates Cecil Kimber and all that he did for MG and the backstory. Yeah. They wanted to digitise some of the assets. And we were talking, and I showed them how the technology works. And they said, "This is fantastic. Could we offer this to members?" And I said, "Yeah, they've all got life stories." And he went, No, for their cars. Yeah. And that was the spark of inspiration that led to Concours. Oh, fantastic. So I can't even take credit for it, actually. It's, Andy, in fairness, who's had his own journey, and I hope he's listening. I said, "Well, can I run with it?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely." And that was literally the start of Concours. Yeah.
And it's been fantastic, because I've had a bit of a play around with it, and I've managed to kind of put in the first 2 years that I've owned Peggy.
Amazing.
And it's quite good in that, so you put in whatever you remember as and when you remember it, and it obviously sorts it all out for you by date without you having to kind of worry about it. If you find a picture or a receipt or something later, it's quite easy to go back in and add that as an extra thing. Yeah. Because obviously not everyone's super organised. I mean, I'm envious of all the people that have the perfectly organised briefcases of all of the MOT certificates and all of the receipts and stuff like that already in date order. But for me, it's a case of, well, let me put all the photos on to start with, because that's what I've got on my phone, and then at some point I can go through the folder and put those extra bits in from like before I owned her. And so you can it's quite intuitive of working your way around. And then at the end of it, you end up with this website that you can use.
Yeah. So it's a chronology. Yeah. So and again, you can apply it in any form that you want, and it will apply it automatically. You're absolutely right. That's the beauty of it. So you don't have to do sort of things in a sensible order. You can literally pick what you want when you want. Yeah. That's one benefit. Yeah. What was the question? Sorry.
The website aspect of it. So it produces this kind of timeline, and that's quite an interesting thing, because a lot of people, I think, are keen when they go to shows or whatever to show people what they've done with their car and their history, and it offers that aspect, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So it's twofold. One is that when you publish your timeline, your Concours timeline, you get the output is an interactive web page, so it's yours per vehicle effectively. But you also get a QR code, which is unique to your vehicle, or your life, or your statue. But in this sense, obviously your car. What we've had with some owners, and we've got some early case studies, and I'll talk to you about that as well, because it's really fascinating. I find it fascinating. Is we've got some, when they attend events, they have like generally an A4 piece of card or paper in the front of the vehicle. So some have put it on that. Some have actually created stands that sort of stand in front of the car now with a bit of information on and the QR code. There's a guy in Australia who I've had a bit of communication with, I guess, Clive, and he's got a really lovely Jaguar XJS, quite a rare model. And he's built this. It's almost like its own little beautiful stand, colour coded with the car.
Oh wow!
It's just amazing. I mean, it really stands. I mean, he's the first one to have it out there, to be fair. It's brilliant.
It's quite cool in that. So I used to have the little bit of paper that would go in the window that I laminated and all of that stuff. But by the next season, I'd have done some new stuff that I wanted to mention, or something that had happened. So like if I looked at my bit of paper that I'd had up like in February of last year, which is probably the last time I put a bit of paper up in the window because I haven't got around to updating it. It wouldn't mention like the restoration, it wouldn't mention all of the stuff that I did last summer, it wouldn't mention like my island trip and all of that stuff, whereas this would be automatically updated in that whenever someone put that on, whatever you'd last put on would be visible to them. And also if you've got loads of backstory or whatever, then people can see how many owners and stuff it's had and where it's lived, if they recognise it from living near them. Or even if they're walking around and they're like, I think I recognise this car or whatever, and they see you've got a gap on the timeline, they might be, well, actually, I think it was near me, owned by so-and-so at that time, and that might start a conversation where you find out more about your car. Yeah,
100%. I think that's the love and beauty of being in a community, and specifically within the car membership community, because you can ask people and they might know, or they might know someone that knows. One of the very, very early case studies we had, and I mentioned John when I met the Kimber House. He owned at the time an Iris Blue MGB, beautiful car, and it was featured on the Royal Mail's Great British Car Stamp Collection.
Oh wow!
It's a lovely car, beauty, and it was also featured on Top Gear. And it was featured by Quinton Wilson on another program. He's got all these and various magazines. It's just a nice car, and he's got that on his timeline as well as the previous owners. So he's since sold it actually. We don't have the detail of the new owner. We hope that's going to be conveyed
passed on,
exactly through the club. But another one, which is a standout case study, I guess, would be a silver Wraith that was put together by the RREC, so Rolls-Royce Enthusiast Club. And again, it's a standout beauty. It's won various awards and concours as well. But that car was featured on Prince Philip's 90th birthday celebration parade. And again, it's on the timeline. It's a standout moment. Now, not everybody's got those stories to tell, but each story is important and individual.
And as well as kind of capturing those sorts of moments, I feel like it could be really useful for tracking basic stuff like when you last did a service, when you last did a load of work to the car, especially if you're someone that works on your car and you take a lot of pride in it. That's something that you might be pretty keen to share at shows, but also keep a bit of a log for yourself of take a photo. If you found something particularly difficult, jotting down for yourself in the app of this is the way to do it next time, because that's going to make it so much easier. Then when the next time you come to that job, you're like, when did I last do it? I did it 2 years ago. yeah, definitely needs doing again. And I've said to myself here, actually, I need to do it this way because that makes it so much faster.
Yeah, 100%. Also, maybe for the subsequent owner, we all love our
Yeah.
cars. We all love our cars, but sometimes people want to get something else, or sell their vehicle because they've got an interest in doing something else or another restoration project. So that sort of those bits of information, those golden nuggets, can be passed over. And similarly, restorations. You mentioned restorations. Well, you can literally capture a restoration from beginning to end in Concours.
Yeah,
and just show the progress over a period.
I'm really looking forward to actually putting that in for Peggy, but I'm also, because I've got so many photos and so many video clips, I'm like, that is going to take, because I managed to do the first 2 years, kind of sat there in an evening in front of TV, just like downloaded the photos onto the phone and then moved them across onto Concours and put them all in the order and stuff like that. And that took me kind of an evening just sat in front of the TV. So it's quite approachable and easy to do. But I'm like, I know that when I want to put the restoration in, that's going to take a bit more time because I'm going to want to find the receipts and I'm going to want to find this and that. But yeah, it's definitely a great way of logging everything.
A project in its own right.
Yeah.
The beauty there though is we've made Concours available, and we've done this across all platforms, on desktop and mobile.
Yeah.
So we live in a digital age now.
Yeah.
The beauty of having it on a mobile is if you're at a show or an event and you capture a little piece of content, that can go directly on Concours.
Yeah.
But equally, if you're at home and you've got all your files there, on your desktop or laptop, you can upload it from there as well. So you can. I think one of the beauties about Concours Mobile is we have speech to text throughout, so you can literally talk to the app and it will transcribe for you.
Yeah.
That's a quick tip.
Yeah, really good for like if you've got greasy hands or whatever because you're in the middle of working on something, or if you're not as quick on the typing on the phone or whatever. Yeah.
And what I would also encourage people is to get the youngsters involved. They're kind of, when I say youngsters, you as an example, technically more able than us older people. Yeah. I think. Yeah. And that intergenerational learning aspect, you can pass down that knowledge and everything about it really, the car, the information, the history. Yeah. All those sorts of things you can pass over at the same time as you're capturing. Yeah. I would advise, if you can, utilise grandchildren, children. Yeah. As well. And
they'll love hearing the stories as well, like of you taking a car out or you doing the restoration. It's a great way to get them interested in the car if they're kind of just on the beginning of it, thinking about it. So if people are kind of interested in getting it for themselves, does it cost?
So right now, it's a free app for one car. Yeah. So if you've got a lovely car out there, and I'm sure you do,
or a project car that you're wanting to document the progress on,
then it's free for one car. Yeah. Per owner.
And you upload your photos, your audio clips, and any letters and text and stuff like that. Yeah. Up videos is in one of the more premium packages, but. Yeah, that's the case of if people want to upgrade to that, then that's there as an option.
That's there as an option. If they upgrade, it's they get 3 timelines with video as well on each timeline, and then there's an upper tier for prime collectors with 20 up to 20 cars, or up to if they've got 5 or 6, then that's there as well. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, all of this is not just us saying we're led ultimately by a steering group. Yeah. We meet once a quarter virtually, and we talk about and discuss what innovations are taking place, what we're doing in the latest versions. So there's a constant upgrade path.
And what sort of people are involved in the steering group?
Well, we've got senior VPs from insurance brokers through to chairmen and directors from car membership clubs. Yeah. We've got people from marketing who are involved in the car world. Yeah. We've got people that own very large established car showrooms. Yeah. They're a collection of enthusiasts, let's say, and people that are respected but we're adding to it all as well all the time.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have the knowledge in-house. We're a tech business.
Yeah.
I mean, we're passionate about what we do, but all of the people on the steering group are really passionate, and they're really laying the ground and laying the way forward in terms of what we do. One of the plans we've got for the future, and it's not a too distant future either,
Yeah.
and people are a little bit sort of shy of AI and what it can do, but we can potentially utilise AI to pull back the history and information that is currently unknown
Yeah.
to the owner and pull that into the timeline for them.
Yeah.
So we're looking at things like that to enhance.
Yeah, and I think there was something mentioned about like road trips and stuff like that
Yeah.
when we spoke before, which
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to, if you do go, so like when I went over to Ireland and I was manually kind of screenshotting and logging all of the miles that I covered on each day and where I'd been, and so if you could just like flick a button on the app in the background and it would be like, yes, you'd been to these places, and tied that in and then immediately put that on your timeline for a particular road trip and stuff, that's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about technology is you can pretty much do most things. If
Yeah.
you can think of it, we can probably do it technically.
Yeah.
It's just where it fits in on our time. We've got our development board is huge.
Yeah.
So we don't stop. It's a consistent, continuous improvement process.
Yeah.
Even for the free version, actually, it's important to give people the benefit of improvement, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only have you got like the chairs of various car clubs on the steering group, but a lot of car clubs are now offering it as like a member benefit that gives back to the club. So if people go through their club, use the referral link or whatever, the club gets a little bit of something back, and they then get that member benefit of being on AfterCloud too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, a couple of the membership clubs, if you don't mind me mentioning them, one, in fact, they've been in working with them consistently actually from day one. One is the Aston Martin Heritage Trust. It's not a car club per se, but a great trust, and they are continuously evolving the timeline for the A3.
Yeah,
it's Aston Martin's oldest vehicle,
which was inspired by a singer.
Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't know you had that knowledge.
Yeah, because I grew up around singers, so so it's always a big thing that.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah,
and then we've got through Rolls-Royce as well. We had the Silver Ghost, so the AX201, the original. It's down in Beaulieu now, but that timeline has been put together by one of the guys that runs within the membership club. So yeah, we're very, very fortunate to have some fantastic people associated with not only the steering group but our continuous plans.
And if people are not part of any of the clubs that currently have a referral code and whatever, I have one down in the comments and in the description box and stuff like that, so you can get yourself a timeline set up and start playing about with it, because it is really easy to just sit there and do, and a little bit more productive than perhaps doom scrolling or whatever on an evening while you sat watching TV. You can there and put some stuff about what you've done with your car over the last few years and start building that profile up.
Yeah, I think once you see the output, the fact that you get this independent web page specifically for your vehicle, it's a real benefit. I mean, it's fantastic, and it works really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and have a chat.
Becky, it's been a pleasure. It's been fantastic. And Peggy is a gorgeous car.
When was the last time you were in a Morris Minor?
Long time ago. A long time ago. Yeah. My uncle had a white one, and I always kind of thought of it as Herbie.
Yeah.
You know, it should have been in the livery of Herbie.
Yeah.
That's always what I think about. That's a Beetle.
It is, but a lot of people joke that a lot of Morris Minor owners
he had a Morris Minor, but it was white, and I always thought it would be
a lot of Morris Minor owners get people coming up to them and saying, that's a really nice Volkswagen Beetle you've got. A lot of people get it confused. And we've got a friend of mine, Tash, who's got a white VW Beetle, and we call it her German Morris Minor.
Like as a kid, I remember that because my Uncle Ken had this a white Morris Minor,
Yeah.
but I always wanted it to be Herbie. Yeah. So it's funny when you start talking about those things. They bring back the memories, and then through cognitive recall you think actually, and then that leads to another memory.
Yeah.
Well, that's another beauty about capturing stuff real time.
And if it leads to another memory that is 20 years ago, if you're putting it in AfterCloud, it's going to put it in the right order for you anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's been an absolute joy and pleasure.
Well, thank you very much.
And as I say, Peggy is she's a very lucky car.
Yes, I would say so. She's landed on her 4 wheels for sure. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, pleasure.
So I hope you really enjoyed hearing about Concours from AfterCloud. It's something that I'm definitely going to be adding more and more to for Peggy's, and I will share my webpage with you guys as well in the comments and stuff, so that you can have a look at what it looks like filled in. But if you've been watching on the YouTube, you'll have also seen some little clips that I recorded of me filling in my timeline for Peggy. But there's loads of ways that you could use it depending on how you want to integrate it into your record keeping for your car. Yes, you could keep each individual timeline for each car, but you could also potentially create a timeline of all of the cars that you've owned and when you owned them, and compile it that way if you want it to be more of a record of your personal car ownership. Lots of people keep kind of photos and records of their cars, and it's a nice way to keep it all in one place and easily accessible, and potentially if you're wanting to like show people at events and stuff, oh, these are the cars that I have, and this is when I got them and stuff. It's so useful for that. And I think it's a really interesting thing to see, having kind of come across to the classic car world, and I'm sure we'll all hear lots more about it, but you heard it here first. Darren told me after the interview today that this interview about AfterCloud Concours is his first kind of press interview of any form about the product, which is fantastic. And I'm sure there'll be lots more coverage, because I think it's going to be a really useful tool for a lot of people in whatever way you decide to use it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and perhaps have a click of the link, set up your account and have a play about with it for one of your cars or your collection of cars. But in the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Drive safely and happy motoring.